Throw it down.
All right, we're gonna go ahead and call the special meeting of the Lakeshore Hospital Authority to order. Discussion review of the fiscal year 2022-2023 budgets. Williams, do you want to? You need to go over that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, but before I begin, may I please just remind the trustees that neither Cynthia nor Tanya are present tonight. Unfortunately, both have the COVID. We are in COVID protocol. As for me, I have no symptoms. However, I did test myself twice today. I certainly test negative. I kind of moved Trustee Douglas just because I thought he might feel more comfortable. But if things seem to be a little bit more disheveled than usual, then I would ask you to please consider that. Also, my thanks to Carl. Carl is kind of doing the job of Cynthia and Sonia while they're not available. So, Mr. Chair, you may have to show him a little bit of consideration because he's back and forth between tables. Having said that, this is the second and final budget hearing for the fiscal year 22-23 budget. The budget will begin October 1st of 2022 and run through September 30th of 2023. Because we chose to levy a millage, albeit a very small millage, 1/10,000th of a mill, we must and are following statutory guidelines for the adoption of a millage-based budget. They do not make exceptions just because the amount of millage levied is small. So as a result of that, there is a statutory process that we must follow and ensure that we follow that. And please, Department of Revenue, we print out a series of steps that must be taken to officially adopt the budget, and that's part of your agenda packet. Now, having said that, what the budget highlights are for the next fiscal year, and all of this has been discussed previously, but I wish to review it for the record. Number one, if you will recall, our current budget has 5 funds, and we're reducing the 5 funds to 3. We're doing that at the recommendation of our financial advisor. I also think it will streamline things a little bit easier. And the way we did that is we're putting clinical services into the healthcare services fund, and we're putting capital improvement into the buildings administration fund. Doesn't change the budget, doesn't change the number, doesn't change any of the expenditures or the line items. It just collapses those into 3 separate funds. Now, in the healthcare services fund, that's where you will find the millage that's being levied. Again, 1/10,000th of a mill. I think countywide it is expected to generate something like $350. We're primarily doing that as a placeholder on the tax bill, which will go out in November. What I would really bring to your attention or to remind you in that particular budget on the revenue side is the interest income. We're actually showing it in the budget at $240,000, which is basically what was anticipated when we did this. I can pretty much tell you now, particularly with the last rate increase, you're going to exceed that. So given historically we've had really low interest earnings on the public's money that we hold, that's looking much, much better. I would not be surprised if instead of 240, by the time we get to year end, that number is not nearly double that. So that's positive, at least from the standpoint of revenue for the authority. On the expense side, within the healthcare services fund, I'll remind you, I did increase the indigent care line item by about $85,000. I did that because I do anticipate you will be considering and making changes to your healthcare assistance program. particularly to the extent that we will be working with some of the leaseholders that we hope to entice to locate in our facilities. So we did include that. On the building admin fund, the significant thing there I would point out is we put in about $370,000 for what we believe will be needed and necessary improvements to the Women's Center and to the physical therapy building. So we've included that for capital improvements. And over on the operating fund, which is the one where we pay most of the day-to-day bills from, we increased the directors and officers line item for insurance. And also I had proposed and have included an hourly wage increase for Cynthia, Sonia, and Dwayne. For Cynthia and Sonia, it's $3 an hour. I primarily mirrored that of what I saw most local governments doing in the area. And for Dwayne, it's $1 an hour. And those will, of course, be taxable and we be subject to retirement, et cetera, on top of that. However, that does not exceed what was requested in the line item. It's just the allocation that I used. So, Mr. Chairman, trustees, we have a balanced budget. I present that to you as balanced, and of course, we would present it to you for public hearing.
This time I will open the public hearing. I would like to announce that the proposed millage rate of 1/10 thousandths or 0.0001 mils is the rolled back rate for 2022-2023. The purpose of the levy is to maintain the legal standing of the Lakeshore Hospital Authority as a taxing authority. Mr. Williams just went over overviewed the budget for us. Are there any comments or anything from board members? None. Is there any public input on the budget and millage rate? So.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd just like to repeat something which both myself and Ms. Loman have brought up just about at every meeting since the Lakeshore Hospital Authority shut down and was vacated, is that the enabling legislation for this authority says that you have to have a doctor that practices medicine on the Lakeshore Hospital Authority board. You refuse to get an attorney general's opinion. The way that would be done would be to vote on it and ask the Lakeshore Hospital Authority attorney to request an opinion. You refuse that. Obviously, you didn't want to infringe his record as he potentially takes being a judge and, as you jokingly say, remains the authority attorney. But being that the board is not legally constituted, I question the board's authority to raise any tax level. Any tax level. Look at this. Any tax levy whatsoever, being you have an illegally constituted board. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Lulker. Any other public input on the budget or millage rate? No amendments to the proposed budget.
No amendments, Mr. Chairman, but I will remind the trustees as we go through the process of leasing buildings and we have different business models that you may agree to. This budget will be amended in the coming year. We simply don't have magic wands and crystal balls and can't foresee the future. So we've made assumptions and we've readily admitted we made assumptions, but as more definitive information is known, we can make more definitive financial adjustments.
Then I'll entertain a motion to adopt the millage rate of 0.0001 mils for the 2022-2023 fiscal year, which is outlined in resolution 2022-001.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion carries. At this point, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the budgets for the 2022-2023 fiscal year, which is resolution 2022-002.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, that motion carries. At this time, we will close the public hearing. Get back to our agenda.
Chairman, if I may, the trim notices have to be certified by Wednesday. So that affects both you and Miss Laurie. You have to sign as chair, Miss Laurie, you as secretary. So if you don't mind, before we leave tonight, may I please get you to sign the resolution?
Yes, sir. Right. Staff or trustee additions or deletions? Wanna-
Yes, if I may, Mr. Chairman, I have two additions. One is I would like to discuss when the board and the trustees take possible action regarding the use of the hospital for certain displaced parties and groups due to Hurricane Ian. And the second is I would like for the trustees to discuss and possibly adopt a state of emergency resolution due to Hurricane Ian.
We'll add that to new business right after the Robinson, Kennan, and Kendron, if nobody has objections to that. Okay. I'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Chancey, a second by Mr. Douglas. All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, that motion carries. Public comments. Ms. Limley.
Can I hold my comments until these things here are on it?
Until what things? Look, you can talk on everything except I'll give you another opportunity to speak on the displacement of those displaced by Hurricane Ian and the state of emergency. Thank you.
In the handout, there is a email from Peacock. You know, he kicks the can about as much as what you guys kick the can. And what I'd like to know, what financial information has he provided to Mr. Powell? What information has he provided to Dale that has been provided to you? His emails are always splishy splashy. And he states we're in the process of opening a veterans facility in Tallahassee. And you guys will be invited, but he doesn't even indicate where it is. And I think if you're going to even look at this, he needs to be thoroughly vetted with anybody that's going to be involved with him. And the other email talks about his sister assisted living facility in Bloodstown. He never once mentioned anything like that during his lengthy presentation. And if he's connected with Julie Smith, the prayer lady, you know, she said nothing. So I think you need to seriously look at him. And you know, you have a very good offer from Meridian. They're pretty much willing to take the building as is. And regardless of what the community thinks, mental illness, mental health is a major problem, whether it be from just, you know, alcohol, drugs, your background. I think that Meridian is the way to go. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Limley. Mr. Looker.
Very nice to be here. I guess this is Fred's last meeting. Been honored to be a citizen, just a go-on, being the authority chairman. If he makes it to the courts. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a question about this. This, what is this called? The sign-in thing to make individual appearances. Where every public agency in Florida calls it public comment. And you called it public comment for a while. I guess this was you that decided to call it individual appearances. Another just hinky thing from the Lakeshore Hospital Authority. Where you just guys float along on your own raft. But you recently changed the rules of procedure on the consent agenda. Some of you may not even know that. Kenny doesn't look like he knows it. Mr. Douglas doesn't look like he knows it. I know you know it because you probably put it on you. The only time I've been covering North Florida for 2006, I've ever seen meeting rules go on a consent agenda. That's just a sneaky thing to do. And I've never ever seen meeting rules until you put them on and just be on a consent agenda. Isn't that right? You put them on there?
Yeah.
And clearly the rules aren't right, at least fair, because you guys are about the only ones left of all the people that I've covered in the last decade and a half who give a person 3 minutes to discuss everything on the agenda. What it says here. Sort of the Neanderthal Hospital Authority. You run an authority, it's illegally constituted, you're afraid to ask your attorney for an opinion because you've become an expert. You snuck in the consent agenda you snuck in a rule change on the consent agenda. You shouldn't chew so much. You should like slow it down a little bit. Very rude. That's really bad. And now a public has 3 minutes to discuss every item. Last time that was O'Boyle down in St. Petersburg, I guess, was sued down for this kind of thing. Mr. Coleman, I'm sure is handy with Westlaw to look that up. And they were going to sue them, or we're going to sue them because it's clearly not fair. Because if somebody wanted to comment on every action for item for action, is 10, which we want, either 10 seconds a piece, 30 seconds, 20 seconds a piece. Nobody does that, Mr. Beal. You want to be a politician? Nobody does that.
You've already gone over your 3 and I'm still letting you talk, so you're right, nobody does that.
The question is the contract for Robinson, Kennedy, and Kendrick, PA, because I gotta get the thing started. Is that in your backup material? The contract?
Yeah. I mean, it's part of his 3 minutes that he's already went over, so go ahead.
Is it in the, that's all.
So after the presentation, after questioning, if the trustees want us to proceed with the contract, we just need to know if there's any particulars.
So there's no contract for the public available tonight.
No, there's no
Unless we
contract.
don't- Not unless they agree to just accept like what Fred has or something like that. But the answer is no.
No, there's no contract. And why wouldn't there be a contract in here, Mr. Beal? I guess you guys.
Because we're meeting with the attorney, Mr. Wilker. What
do
you want us?
to approve a contract?
No, does it say that we are?
And you have a pro forma contract tonight that you're gonna discuss that hasn't been made available to the public, is that right? No? No contract, whatever you're looking at, what is it, just RFP?
It's the RFP.
I
It's the
don't know, I'm
RFP.
just asking, I looked at the material,
This is what
and I
they're
think you have
looking
like
at.
4 items. That's it, so that, you didn't put that on there, that's already been provided, I think.
Yes, twice.
Well, you should have done it 3 times tonight. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, time is up.
It's been about 5 minutes, just FYI. I'll let you go. So you had like 50 seconds per item.
No, I
And
only discussed one item.
Just to clarify what Mr. Loker was speaking of, the rules change that was on the consent agenda is what was discussed by this board at the previous meeting. When Mr. Coberline said that I could not just adjourn the meeting because everything had been, the agenda had been exhausted. So that's the changes that were on the consent agenda that everybody had an opportunity to review and voted to approve. So if there's any questions about it, we can bring that up at any point. and adjust them if anybody would like to. With that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. New business, Robinson, Kennan, and Kendron, PA. Mr. Williams, would you like to introduce this item, please?
I would, in our last meeting, I informed the board that we'd received 2 responses to our request for proposals for legal services. Based on the 2 on their face, we had a local which had experience dealing with various entities, including other hospital authorities as part of their team. So we requested, and we now have Mr. Todd Kennan. Todd is here to answer any questions that you may have. And just to try to clarify from the previous speaker, if you feel comfortable after questioning Mr. Kennan, I would like to talk to you about moving toward the contract with them.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We have, as Mr. Williams indicated, we have submitted a proposal, essentially, I guess the primary person handling the file, the client will, as far as knowledge goes, will be Bruce Robinson. He is recovering from back surgery last week. I think he's out for about 2 weeks, and he's back to the good. I'll probably be doing the legwork, coming to the meetings, that kind of thing. I meant to look to see how many years he's represented the Baker County Hospital Authority, but it's been for a while. I have past experience with municipalities, White Springs, in Fort White. And so we believe that between the 2 of us, we'll be able to accomplish any tasks needed for this board.
So either you or Mr. Robinson, more than likely, would be one of y'all that
We would be
come to the
probably the only 2. If we got tight on coverage for a meeting, it might be Rachel Ponte, one of our associates, but that would probably be few and far between. And if she did attend, you'd be up to speed on what she needed to address.
So basically, it would be a cooperative effort with your law firm,
Correct.
and people could bounce things off each other before they're presented to us.
Correct. We've got a probate guy that probably won't be much help to the team.
No.
Bruce Robinson is a board certified civil litigator. But he's trying to get out of the litigation area and go more to office work, contracts, those types of things, which I think will fit in here nicely. And then we have 2 other civil litigators, Chris Robinson and Jenna Bewin, and then myself, do a little bit of everything, civil litigation, family law, that kind of thing. And then Rachel is our new associate. She's active in real property litigation, homeowner stuff. So we have a well-rounded team, and like I say, we do bounce things off of each other, generally on Wednesdays at lunch.
I might add, I'm very familiar with the law firm. So I thought it was Robinson, Kennan and Kendron, but it's just Robinson now. Yeah.
One of those is enough.
Okay. But very competent legal staff. In fact, the Rachel, what's her last name? Ponte?
Ponte now.
She used to be a butler, right? That was but very good law firm, and I'm very comfortable with them. And I think they help train our current legal counsel too.
Mr. Chairman, of course, I've had numerous conversations with Bruce in the past. I'm very much aware of his involvement with Baker County Authority. He and I have talked many times about many different issues, just comparing notes. And so I would certainly attest to his expertise and knowledge. And of course, with Todd, special district law, because he's worked with other various municipalities in the past. I think he is very much up to speed on that. I have no issue at all recommending them to be the authority attorney. And be glad from my perspective to answer any questions you may have.
Questions for Mr. Kennan or Dale or? Next steps would be to move forward with a contract agreeable by both parties. How? What's the process like? Is the audience member correct that is this really Fred's last meeting with us? I thought he said he was here through the end of November. I think we were getting rid of him that quick.
I thought we had until the end of the year.
Yeah. Well, dang,
I
she
thought
had to
you all
stay.
had a contract tonight ready to be signed.
It's not on the agenda.
I have actually asked Mr. Kennan if they have a standard form of agreement. I think you do, is that correct?
Yeah, I'm working with Mr. Coverline on.
What I would suggest is that from a staff perspective, you give us an opportunity to review it and to make sure that it meets or it includes those provisions as submitted in the RFP. And once staff believes that it is to that level, we will put it on our October agenda for approval.
Be happy to make a motion, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
So move that we instruct staff, meaning Mr. Williams and Mr. Coverline, to proceed with negotiations with law firm of Robinson, Kennan and Kendron to provide legal services for Lakeshore Hospital Authority.
Got a motion
Second.
and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, that motion carries.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Kennan. The addition to the agenda with those displaced, possibly displaced by Hurricane Ian, Mr. Williams, that can we go ahead and talk about that one now?
Do it in any order you want. First of all, I have included in that supplemental information an email I received from Hope Bridges regarding that. I have also received one phone call from another party over on the East Coast asking if the hospital might be available if needed. And so what I would like to find out from the trustees is whether we should really try to accommodate. And the reason I say that is we are considered to be an at-risk county. I called the county emergency manager today and confirm that. Typically, you don't relocate from one at-risk site to another. Now, I do believe that is a substantial building. I do believe that in many cases, it may be better than what somebody has to vacate. But as a general rule of thumb, you don't really vacate in an at-risk area. The other thing I tried to determine, and we will get an answer on, but it was not available by tonight's meeting, is what the reimbursement rate is for providing that through FEMA. I also asked Shane if we were to consider and allow that, would the authority be qualified to bill FEMA under their event billing for reimbursement. He was going to contact his FEMA rep and ask the question and let me know, but I did not get the answer back by tonight. So there's two issues there. One is whether we should participate at all because we're in an at-risk county. And if we do participate, I don't really know what to tell you in terms of the reimbursement. You would have to approve it at whatever the FEMA reimbursement rate is, and I don't know what that number is.
Would FEMA reimburse us with us being in at-risk location also? I mean, if they, I mean,
That's part of the equation they're asking. But I don't have an answer for you, Mr. Chairman. I have asked, but do not have the answers. All of this has come up very, very quick. And unfortunately, we're gonna need answers very, very quick. We're supposed to be impacted by Wednesday afternoon, evening.
would there be any legal issues that we'd be opening ourselves up to anything if something were to happen, if they did evacuate here? And I mean, is their insurance going to cover this while they're occupying it, or do we have the sufficient insurance to cover it if theirs doesn't?
Well, I do think you have sufficient insurance, but obviously that's not what we want to happen. If my idea was that if you wanted to do this as a public service in some way, then we would turn around and have a discussion about having Fred go ahead and prepare some form of agreement where we could have them executed, which, you know, made sure we understood whose liability was whose and et cetera. I mean, the other thing that's a little bit concerning is it is a used building. There's a lot of stuff over there that wouldn't be in like a nursing home. I don't know what happens if somebody hurts himself on something that's over there. I don't know. Big building, lots of space. Certainly don't want somebody to not have a place to go if their permanent place is destroyed or hurt or damaged. But we are in harm's way here.
Thoughts and the wishes of the board?
I think that between Dale and Fred, they can make a decision on this. It is an emergency situation. We certainly can't meet on Wednesday to decide. And I think we should be prepared to do something like this. They may not use us. And that would be fine too. But I think we should be prepared, and I think if it is something that is necessary, that Dale should be allowed to execute it. Unless we all want to come in Wednesday morning and vote on it with an emergency meeting.
I'm comfortable with that, Mr. Chair.
Not a bad idea. I definitely don't want to come in here on Wednesday and try and figure this out in the heat of the moment.
Exactly.
Put that, want to put that in the form of a motion?
I make a motion that due to emergency circumstances, we allow Dale and Fred to put together, would it be a contract? A contract to allow emergency housing in our facilities. And I say facilities because they may need, like the first floor of the Women's Center and the other building over here. Those could be used also. At whatever is needed. And that they be allowed to handle it.
Got a motion? Is there a second?
Is there a motion?
I just made
That
one.
was a motion.
I'll second.
Motion in a second. Mr. Looker.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the courtesy. I didn't know this was going to be on here until I actually read it a few minutes ago. So my understanding, all this is based on this item number 4 in the supplemental information from a Mike Peacock with the email FALO2010@ymail.com. Is that correct?
Number 4, yes.
Yeah, thank you. So it said one of our sister assisted living facilities. But it gives no information, Ms. Chancey. Doesn't say the name of the facility. It doesn't say whose sister facility this is. So how could you even approve this? You guys don't even know what you're dealing with. This is the only information that you receive. You also don't know. You're also apparently not equipped. If you're gonna provide food. You now have a COVID alert here. Because you have no staff to answer the phones. So how are you gonna deal with that? So you don't know what you're gonna do with the hospital authority property. You don't know how you're gonna provide food to these people. And quite frankly, from looking at this and the way normally the hospital authority is doing its business, you don't even know what it is. One of our sister assisted living facility. And it doesn't even say what the facility name is.
Nor the number of persons.
Does it matter?
Yeah, I think it, hold on.
Now, wait a minute.
No, let him have his time. Let him have his time.
Oh, yes.
So I think it does matter. I think it matters who's running it. I think it matters who owns it. I think a lot of things matter because you don't know who's being sent over right now, Ms. Jancy. You're making approving a thing to accept something that's anonymous for all intents and purposes. You look at Columbia County Observer. So I'd like some answers to that before you vote. Apparently, Mr. Williams may know. I would imagine that he should know, but he may not know. It doesn't appear like any of you folks know. And that's my comments. I understand the 12th hour thing, but I'll listen.
It's up to you.
Mr. Looper, the intent here is please just set aside item 4.
Set aside.
What if tomorrow we get a call from a hospital group in Charlotte County wanting to know if we can provide some beds? We have no knowledge of that. It could happen. It may very well happen. The intent here is to see if the trustees are willing to allow the use of the building. Clearly, whoever makes the request has got to be vetted to a degree. We don't know who these people may be yet. You're trying to make it look as if this is being done for that one group and one group only. And that is not the intent. It was never the intent.
Well, with all due respect, Mr. Williams, that wasn't the intent.
Mr. Looker, your
You had
time's up.
2 years to make it, well, that hospital been vacant, to make that an
Mr.
emergency receiving facility.
Mr. Looker, your time's up.
To say that this has nothing to do with this is ridiculous. It makes no-
Mr. Looker, your time's up. Thank you.
You got something to say, Ron?
Well,
You got it, Ron.
if this was in reference to number 4, is from Peacock for his assisted living facilities, but he doesn't state how many persons in that facility. Your motion doesn't seem to go along with what I thought we were talking about. This is like a blanket motion to just do it. However, this is not just do it. This looks like one specific situation. And I have concerns about him anyway. As I said earlier. It'd just be nice to know who the facility and how many people it would be.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
yes, it was a blanket motion, not specifically to any particular party. But with the idea that if Mr. Williams gets some phone calls for assistance, he and Mr. Coverline can decide if that assistance can be provided.
And my reason for seconding that motion, Mr. Chair, I have all the confidence in the world in both Mr. Coverline and Mr. Williams.
Well, we've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Can't second it again, but I agree.
All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the motion carries. State of emergency. Mr. Williams.
Again, as we are not quite certain what may happen, I asked Mr. Coberline if he would to prepare a state of emergency resolution for the trustees to consider. Just like we did with COVID, just like we've done with events in the past. The intent here is to be in a position to react should it be necessary without having to try to get everybody back together for an emergency meeting. This would be Lakeshore Hospital Authority Resolution number 2022-003. And it is a resolution of the Board of the Lakeshore Hospital Authority of Columbia County, finding and declaring the existence of an emergency arising from and out of Hurricane Ian. And just like all prior state of emergencies before that, it gives certain authority to the executive director to make emergency purchases of supplies and services required to prevent or repair damages resulting from Hurricane Ian. And in keeping with the statewide emergency management plan, emergency management is not limited to political boundaries. We are expected and we are encouraged to render aid and assistance to those of our other Floridians in need, which goes back to the other issue we talked about.
So moved, Mr. Chair, that we adopt Lakeshore Hospital Authority Resolution number 2022-003, which is very well prepared.
Got a motion
Second,
and a second. Mr. Coberline, is there a law or something that limits it to 7 days?
Yes,
Okay. And at the end of that 7 days, the whole board would have to vote to extend that. Is that correct?
yes.
Okay, thank you. Are there any comments from the public on this item? We've got a motion and a second. Yes, ma'am.
Is that 7 days from today or 7 days from the emergency?
7 days from declaration.
Today.
Previously, it allowed the chair to extend beyond the 7 days, and then what he extended, those extensions had to be ratified by the trustees at their next meeting.
Well, let's vote on that and then extend it to our next meeting.
Wait, what now?
Let's change it from 7 days to our next meeting.
It's gotta be 7 days, and he just does it every 7 days.
A law was recently passed where it's 7 days from the issuance. And it may be extended by a majority vote of the body.
So if anything, we'll have to come back next Monday and vote to extend it.
Can we vote for it and then have a second vote to extend it today?
Why, yes, Ms. Johnson, that would be 2 7-day periods
Which would-
running concurrent.
Which would,
It wouldn't help, it'd just be.
oh, instead of consecutive, okay,
it's a good try.
okay.
Now, you cannot extend it for more than 6 terms for a total of 42 days. So if you pass 6 motions tonight, you would be out of your 42 days. I can research that, but I'd only have 6 days to research it. So I would advise not to, because it takes me some time to research.
Very slow reader.
Longer, we can't, no, we're talking.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, That motion carries. Mr. Williams, item number 3, the Mercy Medical request to lease space.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Miss Floyd, who owns Mercy Medical, in fact, it was her mother that started it. Some of you may know her. She reached out to me last week. So did her current landlord, Daniel Craps. Mercy Medical is currently located on US 90 West in the Daniel Craps Realty office building. That building has sold, so the tenants there must move out. Daniel was trying to find a place large enough to accommodate everybody that was there, but had not been able to due to the time frame. So Mona is looking for a temporary place in which to relocate Mercy Medical. She came over and she looked at the campus, and of course, the facility she liked the best was the Women's Center. Most everybody that comes over and looks likes the Women's Center the best. Normally, I don't think that would be a problem. However, when you get my report concerning your ER solutions later tonight, we are moving along with that. We very well could be in renovations before the end of the year on that particular building. So I tried to reach Mona this afternoon late to ask her, would any of those other buildings be sufficient? I think other than that one, what makes the most sense would be the east end of the PT building where Dr. Reyes used to be and Stephanie when they were there. It's already set up in an office clinic type arrangement. I didn't know how you felt about it, but I feel like maybe we should make that available to her. She is wanting to pay the exact same amount of rent she's been paying Daniel, which is $2,000 a month. She would not physically need the space that's over there, but there's really no way to limit that space on that end of the building. So it's more building than what she currently has, but for 3 months, it's not worth going over and trying to make improvements in order to limit it to just a specific footprint. You know, obviously there would be a requirement for insurance and those things subject to Fred's approval, but with that, I told Mona that I would definitely present it. They are getting somewhat desperate because they got to be out quick. In no case would it run beyond the end of the current calendar year. But having said that, it's an opportunity to put somebody in the building to use them. They have had a presence in this general area before. They used to be right across the lake. I think that's now a yoga studio where they used to be. But I wanted to present it to you to see how you felt.
Have you spoke to her to see if she's open to using the PT building?
I tried. I could not reach her this afternoon, but I'm afraid if we go ahead and put her in the Women's Center, we're gonna have to move her. And that's okay with me because it would be on them, but she might have to move if she goes to the Women's Center.
You think 90 days is sufficient?
For her,
Yeah,
that was her request. I questioned them about it. They reiterated 90 days. Daniel reiterated 90 days. They must have something they're planning on doing to go back to. But they were adamant they would not be there beyond the end of the year.
Wishes of the board?
We can move them in, they can take over power. It's not an insurance problem. People living in those buildings keeps them alive versus letting them be mothballed. And I know a handful of the providers that work for Mona. They're, you know, for what it's worth, they're good people, you know. But I don't think it's a bad idea. I would, the only thing I would say is I little bit of inside information that I know just from doing some pricing work for her a while back. I don't know how she's gonna get out of here in 90 days. I think she might be around a little longer, which is, to be honest with you, good for the board. I think probably good for the building.
I mean, can we put in the contract 90 days and then it could be reevaluated on a month-to-month basis after that?
Yeah,
Do you want to let them in the women's center with an understanding if we have an opportunity to start remodeling, they have to move? Or do you want to just ask them to go straight to,
I think they need to just go straight to the other building.
I think that's what I want to do, but
yeah, I can't imagine her wanting to locate twice. Or 3 times, because they're gonna move from this facility back to the next, unless the women's center has some sort of a visibility thing that she's after. But I don't know.
I mean, again, I don't want to have to come back, before October 1st. If they say, no, we really need to have this and we'll be willing to move, can we give Dale authorization to put in there that if they insist on going to the women's center, they can use it with, they have, we can give them a 1 week notice or whatever it may be that they have to vacate it and they can move to the PT building if so desired, but
Was that a motion Mr. Douglas made?
I didn't make one. No, I'm thinking.
I mean, I
Will
agree.
it
it would be-
adversely, with them being there, could that adversely affect the
Why?
other ER folks?
I haven't specifically asked, but in my opinion, no.
Okay. She wants to move. Right? I don't.
I mean, I would just say that I think it seems that the majority of the trustees think it would be in her best interest to go to the PT building, her and our best interest to go to the PT building. I would prefer that, but if she's insistent on it that, yeah, but we may give you a 7-day notice that you have to move everything to the PT building.
I think Fred and I can work with that. So it is $2,000 a month plus utilities, and they have to provide the requisite insurance to Fred's recommendations.
Somebody,
So we can do a motion to allow Mercy Medical to lease either the women's center
or the PT,
or the PT building. For the amounts Mr. Williams described.
with those conditions.
And those conditions, yes.
We've got a motion
Second.
and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion carries. Organizational meeting, election of officers.
It is that time of year, Mr. Chairman, you are required to have an organizational meeting. And when we typically do that, the first meeting in October, with this meeting is substituting for that. So it is time for you to consider who your officers will be for the coming fiscal year. You'll need to elect chair, vice chair, secretary, treasurer. And then after that, we will talk about our regular meeting schedule.
Can that be a blanket motion, or does it have to be individually? Mr. Copeland?
Individually.
Individually.
No each action.
Okay. I was gonna make motion to keep the same slate, but I can do it individually. I make a motion that Mr. Brandon Deal remain as the chair of the Lakeshore Hospital Authority for fiscal year 2022-2023.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, signal by saying aye.
I
All opposed. Motion carries.
also make a motion, Mr. Chair, that Mr. Douglas remain as the vice chair for Lakeshore Hospital Authority for fiscal year 2022-2023.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, that motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, I'd also like to make a motion that for fiscal year 2022-2023, that Ms. Chancey remain as the secretary treasurer.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion carries. I will.
Mr. Kennedy, you said secretary treasurer. Did you mean secretary and treasurer?
Secretary / treasurer, I'm sorry.
You want to serve both?
Absolutely,
Want to do both jobs?
absolutely.
That's what I've been
You
doing.
As it says here on
for another year.
the, for, she wants to do it for 2 more years, she can do it too. Yeah,
I'll
You didn't
remember.
want to do one.
1 year is fine, the fiscal year 2022-2023. Fiscal
It's
year.
very smooth. You
That's
did
from
not
October
want to
1
do,
through September 30th.
you did not want to be the secretary or treasurer?
I don't even want to be here, but I'm here. Okay.
Then resign.
It is a
We'll have a little bit
combined
more.
position
It's
historically.
maybe.
With
It's not required. I wanted to give Mr. Kennedy the option, but I didn't. The way he stated his motion is,
Attorney General's opinion on it.
so, thank you. Sorry, Mr. Chairman.
All right, you should have in your packet, schedule of the meeting schedule for 2023. Mr. Williams, do you have anything October 9th that's highlighted?
We are proposing that we maintain, just as we have the second Monday of each month as your regular meeting. And unless you have desire to change, I think most people have become accustomed to that schedule.
So October 9th is Columbus Day.
Well, we don't know how y'all feel about it. Obviously, we're open, but post office is closed, the mail don't run. We've run into some problems in the past trying to get things transacted because of that. Other than that, we're good with it.
Entertain a motion to approve the Board of Trustees 2023 meeting schedule.
So move.
A motion
Second.
and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion carries. Discussion and action on October 20 scheduling an October 2022 special meeting.
Just to remind the trustees, we moved the regular scheduled October meeting up until tonight. We coincide with the second and final budget hearing. We indicated when we done so that we would choose a new meeting day for the month of October 2022. In order to do that, we provided this calendar and we try to avoid conflicting with other meetings. So I asked, and they have included board meetings and city council meetings as part of the agenda. Now, having said that, I think the biggest thing that's going to be on the October agenda is going to be at least a lease, hopefully. So I would ask that you kind of make your meeting for the month of October, your special meeting, a little bit later in the month to make sure that we have time to get that done rather than early in the month. So if it's okay with you, I would prefer you do that the 3rd or 4th week of October.
My schedule is very flexible. I'll rely on the other board members for their decision.
20th through the 26th is very difficult for me.
Always the 18th and the 19th.
Does the county close on Columbus Day?
I don't think
I
so.
don't think so. I mean, why do you guys have to close on Columbus Day?
I'm not close.
They haven't closed.
So you just have a meeting on Columbus Day. Schedule a meeting.
Okay, so wait a minute. What did you say, Brandon? You cannot, the dates.
20th through the 26th will be out for me.
Stephen,
I mean, no, there's not really a bad one for me.
If I may, we'll do whatever,
I'm flexible.
we'll do whatever the trustees desire, but if you could avoid the 19th, it would help a lot.
What about Tuesday, the 18th?
I'd be out on the 31st. So you know,
oh,
I'm good with the 18th.
do we have trick or treaters?
yeah,
The 18th, that's the day after the last quarter.
Yes.
Sure is.
It's quarter moon.
I believe that's good luck. So. Motion to set the October meeting to the 18th.
What if we did it on the 27th? That would give us 3 weeks before we have another meeting. It's the 2.5 weeks.
That works.
That would give them enough time to work on all this other stuff that they asked them to do.
Should work for me.
Yeah, works for me.
Okay, the
Do I need
27th.
to withdraw my motion?
Yep.
So can I please withdraw my motion for the meeting to be set on the 18th? And make a new motion to have the October 22 meeting set on the 27th.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. All in favor, signal by saying aye.
About that. You didn't change my schedule too. Why is it that you guys?
Mr. Lilker.
It's 50-50. Nobody knew you were changing it. So this is kind of like the final action.
No, it doesn't, you're right, nobody knew, because we discussed it.
Well, now you discussed it. So my question is, why are you changing it from the 10th? That's everybody's schedule that's used to coming to these meetings.
It was stated at the last meeting that there was a conflict in the schedule and that we wouldn't be able to have that meeting. Me, it's me, you're welcome.
If you would have said that at the last meeting, people would know, but it was a secret.
Not a secret. I
Yeah, it's
can't
not
make the
a-
meeting. I've got a work conflict
No,
for the
but
job that
the
actually
last
pays me.
meeting was, I believe somebody's not gonna be able to attend that meeting.
Yeah,
That's what you said, something to that effect. Everything's in house.
please sit down, Mr. Wilbur. We have a motion and a second on the floor. Any further discussion? Yes, sir, Mr. Coberline.
Who cannot be here?
Me. The job that pays me is asking me to go to Mexico Beach to open a new store, so I'll be there.
Be at the beach.
I will be at the beach. And then I'll be there again the 20th through the 26th. If anybody was wondering why I'm not available that week.
Whose motion was it?
Hell if I know.
Ms. Douglas, does the identity of one of your 3 board members change your mind?
No.
Because you've had 2 meetings now to prepare for that. All right, I was lost there with the disruption. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Still have a motion, a second on the floor. All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. The motion carries. Go ahead, Mr. Williams. I don't know where we are.
Okay,
Mr. Chair, can you set that for me to swap this thing in here?
And I need.
Yes, we'll take a 3-minute recess. Because
No walk, no bottle.
yeah, Dale, can we get some water in here?
See, that's
well,
what.
I got mine,
Those take off.
yeah. I might have something here, it is.
I was around me both last Tuesday. Yeah, I like it. Can I buy one or?
No, I'll give you one, would y'all like one?
I bring my own.
That's our payment. Not the water.
Oh, see what you got to look forward to.
Mine is coffee.
Hey, yeah, I can't drink coffee past 9 o'clock in the morning. I'm wired right now. I'd be really wired. Oh, Lordy.
Well, I can say we no longer make full coffee pots 3 times a day.
Ooh. 3 times.
Now, how you doing?
I gotta go to Horseshoe Beach tonight. You wanna go?
Are you going to stay? Are you?
Till tomorrow, probably tomorrow evening. I got a bunch of work to do.
That drive never gets closer every time I make it.
70 miles.
Yeah.
Oh, Dale, I'm sorry. I didn't know you were gonna bring that many. He's got his hands around.
Y'all leave me alone. Not gonna offer one of you, you're a has-been, we're not gonna spend the money on.
I agree.
Did that come from his bill?
You got any?
Thank you, Dale.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Wow, that's good.
All right, we'll call the meeting back to order, and we were discussion and action, Suite 101 of the Lakeshore Hospital Authority building for the Healthy Family Support Worker.
Trustees will recall, you allowed the University of Florida Healthy Family Support Worker to use the west end of the building. They occupy an office there. They're very appreciative of it. You gave them an initial term of 6 months. That 6 months, believe it or not, is now come and is expiring. We would like to ask that you renew it, but you simply renew it on a month to month, because as we continue to make plans, we don't want to be obligated for an extended period of time. Same use, same program, just because we're at the end of the 6 month, we want to renew it on a month to month.
Which is the board.
We haven't gone anywhere with our dental program.
Yes, ma'am, we have. We're kind of at the point until we complete the urgent care. And we see what we might have to spend in terms of money to make that work, because that primary, we kind of had to hold up, but we do have a concept for dental care. And that's what I'm getting to. So if it should come to that, it would not take long in order to say you have to vacate the building. We did it for another 6 months. They might not want to leave until the end of the 6 months.
Okay, but if we were able to implement our dental care program, I can see the possibility of putting them in another room, maybe upstairs.
You know, I mean, there's plenty of space around. It doesn't have to be there. But I just felt like we needed to have a shorter time frame.
Okay.
We've also talked about this building could possibly potentially go to somebody else, and we'd be in the clinic or wherever with a
Good.
medical provider. So I think it's smart to keep it on a month-to-month basis. Anybody like to make a motion to continue that on a month-to-month basis?
I make a motion that we continue our contract with Healthy Family Support Workers on a month-to-month basis.
Second.
And a motion and a second. Any further discussion by trustees? All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, that motion carries. Last item, discussion and possible action on Hope Bridges and the Your ER solutions.
Let me, if I may, begin with your ER solutions, because I've mentioned those earlier. We've had several Zoom meetings with Drs. Michael and Molly White. There have been numerous proposals passed back and forth. I think we're making good progress there. There's several business models that they have proposed that we've responded to. that type of negotiation. Dick has been the one doing most of the financial review. He's been doing that at my request. I spoke to him as early as today, so I had to put this on a scale of where we're at. I would say we're about 75% in agreement at this point. So we're getting closer. When I say closer, I'm referring to where we could prepare a document for you to begin to look at. Not say you want to tweak it, but it is to say that we think it is a business model that will work. And we have numbers to support it, that kind of thing. So quite pleased with how that's going. Any questions I can, I'll be glad to answer them for you. The concept is to have an urgent care, and when we say urgent care, we're speaking about a level just below a full ER, but there is a lot of discussion about what it would take to move it to a full ER at some point, but it would not open that way. It would have imaging, it would have certain services. There's, by the ACA license, it would be required to be open a certain number of hours. We're talking about staffing it obviously with full doctors, not with nurse practitioners. You know, to me, it's somewhat similar to some of the things you see maybe in Gainesville area outside of the main hospital. I think it's good.
So when do you think we'll be close to a final agreement and lease? And
My conversation today with Dick was, I think I am now ready to sit down with him and put together the scope. And I can take the scope and hand it to a Fred or to a Todd and say, based on this, prepare us a draft agreement. Now, having said that, when you get ready to consider that, since we've started the process, another proposer has, well, I've been advised that there is another proposal that you may want to consider, and it's one that you can consider. But until I get an official request, I don't wish to disclose all the details about that, but I want to make you aware of it if they're interested in pursuing it, where you can make a decision pro and con on those. I think the proposal dealing with your ER solutions will have two scenarios. Which one do you like best, A or B? I think it'll come down to that. But again, there is a party that in the past couple of weeks, because their situation has changed, they have came and spoke. When I get it official, I'll announce it, but until then, it's just discussion.
Was that an ER or to the hospital?
so with the,
This would be to one of the ancillary buildings.
so you
Any
still,
questions on your
do
ER?
you think we're getting close to having that
Yeah.
where it'll be this or this?
Yeah. Please understand, in these, we have to put numbers to this stuff. We have to do some projections, financial projections. I mean, if I'm sitting where you're sitting, you have to have that information in order to make decisions. This is not inexpensive. This is not free. I mean, all of these come with some price tags to them, and we want you to fully understand and know what that price is.
When you and Mr. Powell and Mr. Copeland are satisfied with proposals, can you get them to us so that very possibly our next meeting at the end of October, we can make some decisions?
Yes, that is the goal, Ms. Chauncey. I promise you, we want to put it in your hands in time for you to have a chance to read it, understand it,
And move.
ask questions, whatever. And the idea would be when it gets on the agenda, we could actually get it approved.
Yeah.
Fred, you got any comments about it?
No.
Okay. All right. On the Hope Bridges, you had made a specific request that I advised them that 26 was the deadline that you'd like to have some answers. We did not meet that deadline. I want you to know that the very night that you voted for that, I went to the office and sent an email and advised them. It was not for lack of trying. There were 2 Zoom meetings set up since we had our last meeting. One, because of circumstances that occurred in my family. One of those Zoom meetings were canceled. So that was canceled on my end, and on the other Zoom meeting, they were canceled due to sickness on their end. I have spoken as early as today with Mr. Peacock. And I told him the message that I would relay to you tonight is obviously we did not complete the task we were asked to complete. He is asking that you give him additional time. Having said that, that might be worth considering, and let me explain why. I've also provided you a letter which I received from Don Savoy. Y'all know Don, you've met Don. Don's the CEO of Meridian Behavioral Healthcare. He has prepared a letter and sent it and said that, he still has interest in the hospital. Now, it's not in the letter. I have not spoke to Don. I am being told that the consideration here is maybe different than what was previously presented to you. I don't have a problem calling Don and asking him if it's the same proposal or if there have been some changes or they would like to make some changes. But I feel because of what they do and the impact it has on the community, you at least ought to give him the opportunity to readdress you. And if there are some changes to his original proposal, you need to be aware of that. So if that is something you would like to do, that kind of leaves the window open a little longer where we can continue to see if in fact we can reach some agreement with the Hope Bridges group. Now, as was stated earlier, the problem with the Hope Bridges has more to do with the financial verification side than anything else. I'm not relying on my own thoughts here. I'm relying on others. We want to make sure, obviously, that they are in a position to do what they need to do and they have the financial resources to do it. They don't really want to turn over certain information because they consider it proprietary. It does create a problem, particularly for people like Mr. Powell. And I've made it very clear that if we can't please Mr. Powell, I'm not going to be the one that says, let's ignore his thoughts. He's been at this as long as any of us and probably has forgotten more than most of us know. So I value his judgment in those matters. We are trying to find a way to compromise and have a meeting of the minds, but that is the holdup. Now, I know that this group has been successful with other facilities. You may not know that. Public may not know that, but I know that. Now, having said that, they have extended an invitation to come over and look at a facility they will soon be opening in Tallahassee. The reason they've not determined the date yet is they're looking to get a commitment from the governor, from the guy that's over the Veteran Service Office and others. So I don't know when the date will be, but hopefully it will be within this window between now and the next meeting when you may want to speak with Meridian. And if it is, I think it may be beneficial for some of you to go over. I particularly think it may be beneficial for Dick to go over because he would be able to speak with, you know, the CFOs of those entities and talk about where the revenue comes from, the guarantees, those kinds of things. So having said that, again, summarize, did not make your deadline. Because we have new opportunity to revisit with an old proposer who may be wanting to propose some changes. It does kind of give us a few more weeks to work with them if that's okay with you. So I simply ask the trustees what their wishes are.
Yeah. We talked about Meridian reproposing as being the old proposed.
Is there any
Yes.
comments from the board
Did I not say that?
trustees?
You said the old proposal.
No, before that.
Yes, you said Meridian. Yes, you did.
You did say new proposal. I would. Okay, now we're waiting to see the proposals from ER Solutions. I think in the same time frame, we should be able to see the proposals from Meridian and Flat Tail Hope Bridges, that this is it. If their proposal is not ready and submitted to us, they will not be considered because the property will probably already be leased.
Understood.
And then at our next meeting, the end of October, we should be able to make some very firm decisions.
If I may,
It's the end of October because I have, me personally, Brandon Bill has to be out of town.
Mexico Beach.
It's good for work,
The beach.
the beach.
The end of October, because it's more convenient for all of us.
Specifically me, but sure,
Are
thank
you
you.
going to be able to come to?
I
Come on,
I was confused over that.
son stops paying for the room.
so
You know what? Wait a minute.
I just don't know that, I don't know that,
Board member Wilker confused me with his presentation.
I don't know that we're gonna have,
You know what? I think I'm gonna be out of town on the 27th.
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't necessarily have an issue with that, because even if we say tonight that we're not gonna move forward with it, what are we gonna do for the next month? I am not pleased with the fact that they still had 2 weeks to send more information and they still haven't done it. I understand you're taking some of the responsibility because of health issues, and I know that comes up, just like we don't have two of our staff members here tonight because of health situations. But I hope within the next week or days that they will realize that they're doing business with a governmental entity. And in order to do that, they're going to have to come up with off their, what they are claiming as proprietary information,
well,
or it's just not going to work. I mean, it's,
just want to reiterate. From my perspective, the nuts and bolts of the lease with Hope Bridges is decided. It was really simple. It's a lot simpler than the one we did with your ER or we're doing. Because it's a triple net lease, they get a building, they're responsible, you know, so on and so forth. We come up with some language that would work to make sure that any inflationary increases that may inure if they were to leave early, it wouldn't cost you any more money if you wanted to raise the building. That was one of your requirements. And that, of course, was to take care of the quote performance bond issue. So all that is pretty much resolved. Really what's lacking here before we put any of that into a lease form is the vetting. That's where it is. And particularly on the financial side. And what Dick really wants to see is he wants to see guarantees from, in this case, HUD, the Hope Bridges, where payments are being made for transitional housing. And those can be somewhat assigned to the authority as guaranteed.
You said HUD, I thought it was the VA.
No, the VA has transferred that recently, and that was another reason it kind of slowed up. The VA just transferred transitional housing to them in the past 30 days.
Sounds good.
It's not public comment time. I'm gonna ask both of you if you would like to be board members. We have three vacant seats. We'll keep doing it. I don't know what else to tell you, but as of now, you're audience members, not trustees, and this is a time for trustee discussion.
But
Just like you bitch at the city council meetings that they let another person in the community get up and run the meetings, you're not gonna do it here, Mr. Milker.
I'm trying to get some information, so ask me some questions that make sense.
We can't do that during the meeting. That's not decorum.
That makes sense.
You don't do that.
You don't do
you're-
that here?
No, it's called decorum. It's called decorum, Mr.
Thank you.
Wilker.
Go for it.
I'm trying to. If you will please remain silent.
I wanted to try and make sure that the trustees understood where we were with that negotiation. It's not as if nothing's been done. That's really what the big problem is the vetting of the financials. So having said that, I understand exactly what you're telling me in relation to when we meet again. And that is the final deadline. Now, having said that, at that meeting, we're going to also try and have a draft lease with your ER solution. And we're going to invite Mr. Savoy to come and readdress you too about what maybe Meridian can now do that maybe is different than what they originally proposed.
But can we have it in writing before the meeting?
What they want to propose,
Yes,
I can ask for that. Yes, ma'am.
okay.
And again, I've not spoken with Don. But hopefully there's something new there that is, could potentially help us.
If I might add, Mr. Chair, I know 2 weeks ago, I was adamant about having something tonight, but I have no problem delaying this for 4.5 weeks on the 27th of October. And feel very confident with our qualified and competent executive director, attorney, and accountant. From sitting in and watching the meetings with Oak Bridges, I'm very impressed with the three of them and their the way they conduct the business. And I have no problem waiting. As far as on the letter here dated September 22nd by Meridian, I just might add, Mr. Williams, if they are, as it says here that they are, their commitment to provide services and critical needs, and it says basically they just want to follow up their presentations are clear, detailed, and supported by facts. If they don't have anything new to offer, I really don't want to waste our time listening to anything else unless the rest of the board feels like we should. By that, I mean, they were interested only in A, giving the building, and B, $10 or $12 million in addition.
Well, I think they did come back with a second proposal saying that they could take the building if they could take ownership and they could get.
You're correct.
And I mean,
Yeah, you're correct.
at this point, I mean, I'm not against entertaining it simply if
Okay.
it will save us from tearing a building down. I'm not saying that I'm.
Mr. Chair.
I mean, I still have my concerns personally, but yes, ma'am.
She's not here on the 27th.
Let's finish this and we'll get it.
After all my jumping up and down about 27, my husband will kill me if I'm here instead of with him then. The retired troopers have meetings twice a year.
So you, Paul.
Yes.
It was originally
It
him.
was
Now it's-
first, it was me. Now it's on you. You got us off.
It's my fault. It's being.
About to get appointment. We don't want to, we're gonna keep you alive.
Can we What did we say, the 19th or the 18th? What
18th.
did you say?
I said the 18th,
18th.
then I withdrew it.
I'll make arrangements to be here, but it's just going to be very hard. Probably problems on the night.
19th, okay. So the
The
18th,
28th is a Friday. We don't meet on Fridays, do we?
Can you make it later than that, Brandon?
I'm sorry.
More time you give me the better.
Unless we did
can't
it on
be
the
here.
28th.
On the 18th.
I'll be here on 18th. In your problem.
It's under.
Mr. Coberline, is it possible for a member of the board to attend one of these meetings virtually?
Special districts have a little different regulations on remote attendance. I'd have to look into it. I tell you, generally, a local government, a person may attend remotely. And it would be up to the members that are physically present to determine the reason of the attendance. And then vote whether or not the person attending remotely may vote. But I would have to look into it regarding this special district. I know where the answer is, I just can't recall the answer.
Can we ask staff to wait for an answer from legal counsel on that and then get everybody's availability and come up with the date at that point?
You could schedule, provide 2 dates currently. One contingent upon the answer.
So the 28th, which is a Friday. November 1st, which is a Tuesday.
Well, if Stephen and Brandon could get off early on a Friday, we could schedule the meeting earlier. Since it's Friday.
That's fine. That's fine. Yeah, there's no way. So what are we saying? We're saying the 17th or the 28th?
28th or 17th is the city council meeting.
Well,
It's also the last quarter.
we may just have to go in the November.
The week of the 11th or the 12th or 13th is out for everybody.
I think that
Works for me.
doesn't give a whole lot of time for staff to,
But it's 2 weeks. Yeah. And Thanksgiving. I'm open for the whole month. Do we have to have a meeting in October?
No,
Because I heard discussion of going to November. Was just wondering if it has to be sometime within the 31 days of October.
just keep our November meeting.
Yeah, I'm looking at you.
We just keep our November meeting.
No. Okay. Three of y'all need to tell me.
I mean,
okay,
I-
what if we went for November 1st? And at that meeting, we could decide whether we wanted to have a regular meeting on the 14th.
It's the first day of American Indian Heritage Month.
Well, that's a good day for a city called Alligator.
I'm not opposed to having it on November 1st.
Works for me. 17th also works for me. Same. Even though I know we're not supposed to be on the city meeting.
Sometimes it just got to.
Go for the first. Do I need to do that in a motion?
And that way Dale has enough time to get everything together that he's trying to get together. And we will have time to look at it before the meeting.
You're requesting that the October meeting be set for November the 1st?
Yeah.
Tuesday, November the 1st, and then we're still gonna have the meeting on the 14th also.
Possibly. We can override that at the November 1st meeting. if we need
I
to.
mean, it doesn't matter to me. We can
Yeah,
meet every Monday if you want, but I guess in the motion, does the motion, Mr. Chair, have to request that we undo, or excuse me, to delete the date of the 27th that we previously approved?
I would
yeah.
defer that question to legal counsel. Do we need to?
Can you speak up, please? I can't.
I would like to rescind my motion of meeting October the 27th.
It's already been approved.
And I make a motion that we rescind it. Now, if it's seconded and voted on,
Second.
then it's taken care of.
Do we need to
You're
get,
making a motion to rescind your previous motion, which has already been acted upon.
Yeah.
And we found out that you are the reason we can't meet on. the
That's right.
22nd. Okay,
I'm the only
that would
woman
be a
on board.
motion to reconsider
Okay,
due to you being the reason that.
motion to reconsider that date?
okay. A motion to reconsider the date. And change. Do I also change it in that same motion?
A motion to reconsider the 27th.
Yes,
Let's do a separate
You could, or you can do 2 separate.
I'll put it all together.
I make a motion that we reconsider the date of October the 27th and change that date to November the 1st.
I second that. I agree. We should move the October meeting to November.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion by governor appointed trustees? Hearing none, all in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, that motion carries.
And I assume that's at 5:15.
Board member comments, Ms. Chancey.
Thank you very much for putting. That's my comment.
Mr. Kennedy,
None.
you're not a board member, but Mr. Coberline, do you have anything to say?
I look forward to another month serving you all, and I think it's very big of Ms. Doxy to admit that she can't be here on the 27th. It's very important. Some people to know which board member cannot make it, and which can. So, thank you.
Mr. Douglas, do you have any comments?
Just like let everybody know that it wasn't me that couldn't be here on the 20th.
Mr. Williams?
Again, thank you for understanding that we're a little bit disheveled because of health issues. You made it through.
All right, since the agenda has been exhausted and we changed it secretly on the 10 agenda last month, I will conclude the meeting.